Two operators, one conversation, no fluff. This is the Wealthy Momentum Podcast with Jimmy Nicholas and Dr. Dustin Burleson. AI is not going to replace you. Entrepreneurs using AI are going to replace the ones who do not.
All right, welcome back. Hey guys, it's Dustin. Hey Jimmy, welcome back.
How's it going tonight?
Good. Thanks for doing this. As always, excited to hang out and learn from you. And the first episode of the new Wealthy Momentum podcast is out and got a lot of great feedback. So thanks to everyone who's listening and sharing with friends. We're going to continue on the same kind of theme that we're going to give you some levers you can pull inside of your business. And last time we talked about things that needed to stay and things that needed to go. And today we're going to talk about once you've decided what's staying based on principles, now how do we make it more efficient? There's hidden money in there. And so I think every business owner knows, every entrepreneur knows that more new customers are exciting. Everybody wants to chase more new customers. So they think about more digital ads. They think about, all the things we do to attract new patients, new clients, new customers. And I'm just as guilty as anyone. We did billboards and radio, and we've mailed millions of pieces of direct mail. And I am just as excited about anyone listening to this about new patients. But the reality is anywhere between 15 and 30% of additional revenue is hiding inside of your business that you don't need to get one more single customer. You don't have to go chase another lead. And Jimmy and I will share some examples. I've actually seen it as high as 40%. I'm not going to promise that, but we can turn some quick levers. We're going to talk about 5 tonight. And I think consistently we do see, and I can almost promise, unless you don't have a pulse, that if you're listening and you pull a lever or two, you will get 15 to 30% of additional revenue hiding inside the practice. So tonight we're going to talk about where to look. So if we think about episode 65, which is a continuation of the old Burleson box, but really episode 1 of Wealthy Momentum last month, we said those principles that never change. Dan Kennedy taught us this years ago. What changes is how you execute on those principles. And Jimmy's going to share how to do that so much quicker. We have things now that allow us to do it at a scale for those of you that have multiple locations, for those of you who want to grow quickly, and things that we couldn't do even 12 months ago, maybe not even 6 months ago. So super excited to share that with you. A lot of you gave me some great feedback on an email I wrote. I see things out, and when I'm out and about, Jimmy and I do the same thing where we'll see something and go like, well, that's interesting. That's a business principle kind of hidden in plain sight. And at the time of this recording, just last week, this past weekend, James Cameron and Billie Eilish released a really cool 3D kind of concert experience you can go see in theaters. And what fascinated me was that James Cameron, who obviously is very busy and has more than enough work to keep him busy for many lifetimes, he can pick and choose what he does. He saw Billie Eilish's tour, which had done, I think, over $200 million in revenue. And he didn't just go like, well, that's cool. He said, what else can this become? What else is there? And I think in your business and your practice, whatever it is, when things are going really, really well, the question should become, what else can it do? And so Jimmy and I have been kind of buried in the research for this episode. And I want Jimmy to share with you a number that stopped him in his tracks. What was that number, Jimmy?
Well, you mentioned it earlier, the 15 to 30% of missed revenue in businesses. And I would say that's the average, blanket average, but I've seen it be a lot more. And it's so much easier to rekindle a relationship, someone that, knows of you, even those who haven't done business with you yet, but, they raised their hand at some point and, maybe the timing wasn't right then, but the timing's right now. And so it's so much easier to go back to, people who know you, and if they like and trust you already, even easier. We see acquisition costs, when we're acquiring somebody new, whether it's a patient, a client, it can get in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to acquire that new client or new patient. And that economically can be great still for a business. Meanwhile, we can send a few text messages and get people interested in talking to us again, and talking to you to move forward, or at least express more interest, get more information, and get them down that sales journey, whatever that looks like for you. And that can be pennies. So, and then also you mentioned, doing things at scale and doing things, where, you can pull these levers and get some really quick gains, but also you can utilize AI today to segment your list easier than I've ever seen before. Years ago, we would bring in data scientists that were just amazing at reading data and picking up trends and patterns. And, this group should be group A, this should be group B, this is your VIP. This is the one that, oh, they're all in the same household. This is a family. They're doing all this stuff. And now we can get that in minutes. And where, you might do a blanket text, you can do something where maybe you're inviting them to a special event and getting them back into your circle, getting those conversation cocktail stories where they're talking about you. And we've used GIFs in our marketing, and I know you have, with even when I get gifts from you, I know they're all genuine and everything, but it's like, wow, bang. As you listen to this episode, think about, not only inexpensive ways, but what if you went differently and showed up differently? And I always go back to, Dan Kennedy, saying the one who's willing to pay the most to acquire the client always wins. But I like to take that and even say, as the existing patient or the existing client, that getting that person back into your circle, to be a customer, to be a patient, is so much easier than, we got so, I don't want to say addicted, but it was like so easy to put the Google button on and just go get a bunch more new patients. And then, as more and more advertisers rushed there, cost of acquisitions went up and algorithms changed and messaging wasn't spot on and markets changed, conditions changed. And, people will be like, well, we got to get the website up and get the Google. And I said, we can, but perhaps it may be of better interest to look at some internal marketing, some referral marketing, going to your existing base. But the biggest data as we went through all this, Dustin, was just the fact that it is so much easier to get someone to raise their hand again versus a brand new cold stranger who doesn't know you at all.
Yeah, it's 100%. And this is lever number one, and that is your database and how you reactivate it. So you've heard me say from stage, Jimmy and I have presented to hundreds and thousands of people that paid to come see us talk about marketing, which I think I always get a kick out of now. Like, I look at these live events, even the big like national meetings, and there's like 50 people in a room, because you can Google an answer pretty quickly and get it from AI pretty quickly. So I said from stage a long time ago, you could take all the teeth out of Kansas City. You could take all my buildings, burn them to the ground, all my dental equipment, throw it in the Missouri River, take all my employees and poach them away and put them in a different business. If you just left me my list of customers, I promise you I could have it back in less than 2 years. That's how strong the relationship was. That's how Jimmy mentioned gifting. So when the patient shows up, who's a huge Michigan fan, even though I grew up in Ohio, we've got the Michigan colors ready to put on his braces. We're asking him about the game last night. We're sending him a birthday card that has a Michigan logo on it. Those things are easy to do when you know how to manage a database. And we were doing it the hard way. Today with AI, it's insane how efficient it can become. So I want to talk about lever number one. So you're sitting at your dashboard, running your business. Literally, I want you to think like old school, like in a manufacturing facility. You're going to pull a lever and get a result. And the lever number one is database reactivation. To Jimmy's point, it is so much easier to get someone to buy again or to show up again in a good or sometimes in a bad way. I'm going to share an example of someone who showed up again in somewhat of a negative way, but we recovered that service failure very quickly because we had a system in place to pay attention to our database. So here's the principle, and it's almost a super majority, 67, 68% of patients, clients, customers will leave because of indifference, not because they got a better price down the road or because you weren't open on a certain day. It's just they felt taken for granted. So your dormant database, someone who hasn't visited, hasn't come back in 6 or 12 months, that's someone you forgot to talk to, someone you forgot to reach out to. Jimmy said, Dan's principle was whoever spends the most typically wins that long-term relationship. I would add it at the right time and in the right way. So the right media at the right time. If it's leading up to a birthday or it's leading up to a big tax refund right now, a lot of people putting in backyard decks and backyard swimming pools with tax refunds. It's about timing. So here's the story I want to share on lever number 1 with database reactivation. Jimmy had an amazing employee, Tia. She's still amazing, but she was with you in the past and was awesome. She managed our account, and she would always flag negative reviews. I tell orthodontists, like, if you've got 600 5.0 reviews, like, that's amazing. You walk on water. If you've got 11,000 active patients, like we almost 11,500 active patients between the pediatric and the orthodontic side of the business, it was a monster. Our flagship clinic had 22 chairs. It was like back when I had hair. I lost a lot of hair over the size of this thing. So Tia would always send us negative reviews or would send me phone calls that lasted, I think, more than 6 minutes. And you're right. Years ago, you were using, I think, Big Blue, like IBM, like in the AI stuff before everyone knew what AI was, to transcribe phone calls and say, hey, this isn't a new patient call. This is a patient who probably has a concern. And so I would get to listen to all those calls and help with service recovery. So Tia flagged a negative patient review. And I personally called her like within 10 minutes because back then, even that was amazing to have that quick access to our database. It was a TMD patient from years ago who actually used to watch my kids at church when they were teeny tiny. They had like the early childhood stuff. They would go over there so they wouldn't cry during the service. And even though she didn't do the MRI referral that I recommended, even though she didn't wear the appliance like we said she should, I kept my mouth shut. I listened to her concerns, and we offered a full refund. We gave her $6,500 back. Before lunch, we had a sign release, refund check, and that negative review was removed. That doesn't always work that way, but when you have the ability to mine a database quickly and reach out to people, you can not only get patients to come back in droves and do things that they might have forgotten about, but you can also help resolve a customer concern. So, and that lesson we taught clients for a long time is you can be right or you can be rich. I have so many friends of mine who say, we don't give refunds because we think everyone's going to want their money back. I just want to be able to sleep at night, and I want people to feel like we did right by them. And so that patient had been dormant for a long time, and one phone call that could have turned into a potential lawsuit or a board complaint turned into a resolution very, very quickly. So now I want you to imagine what a systematic review of your database could do for reactivation. And I will let you in on a little secret. So we had a lot of trainers that would fly into dental offices and orthodontic offices, and they would sit and listen and do our new patient process. And they would kind of walk them through, like, maybe we want to revamp the waiting room, or maybe clean the cobwebs out of the front door. And we'd have little things we would do. But the magic is we would get their list of pending patients, and we would help them reactivate those. And very quickly, they would see revenue. Every consultant does this. They will teach you their method and system, and then before they fly out of town, they will have reactivated your pending list. And then the next week, you'll go, oh my God, this consultant is amazing. Look, we made $50,000. Of course, it was worth spending $25 to have him or her come in. Everyone does this. So I will tell you, reactivating the list is really powerful. The challenge is to do it consistently. So again, you can be right or you can be rich. Try to not think that someone raced down the road and went to a cheaper competitor, or they just, decided they didn't like the color of your reception room wall. All of that stuff those are excuses on why we think patients won't choose us, why customers won't do business with us. And reality is, in almost every situation, is that we become indifferent to them. We haven't reached out enough. We haven't done the follow-up. So Jimmy's got some data behind this. I'd love to hear some of the data, Jimmy, behind database reactivations. Is so powerful.
Well, what we're looking at is, going back to some of the numbers I was sharing earlier on the acquisition side, when you actually look at the ROI, if as I said in the previous episode, if you could get break even or better to acquire that new patient, new client, you should continue that traffic source, because that new patient, new client is going to refer, they're going to come back, they're going to do, have more business with you. And so getting that initial acquisition, it's not uncommon, maybe 2x, 4x. Sometimes we, hit lightning and we'll get 10x and it will happen again. But when we're going after the existing patient database, the people that are in your world, we're seeing ROI, 10, 20 times is the common, not the uncommon, like when we're going, on the cold side. So it is so much more cost effective. And if you haven't pulled these levers, this is where to start. And then you could also, look at adding on and reinvesting those dollars. I want to add too, when, you mentioned like be right or be rich. I always share with my team, do you want to be right or do you want to win the game? And I look at it like, we want to win the game. So we don't have to be right. And that philosophy has helped our team relate to that, because not all of our team members are like, let me go be rich. So I've kind of tweaked that to the game side. And before we go to the next lever, I got 2 points. Number one, when you talked about the personalization of, getting that gift of Michigan and, finding out that information about people. I mean, today, if they have an online profile, our research databases are pulling up that information. And then if you want to go a step further and find them on LinkedIn or find them on Facebook or Instagram, you can learn and see what they're liking, and, that personalization, that extra touch. And, like, to your point, you may not like the team, but if you can have a relationship conversation starter, that is going to help build that bonding, build that trust. And, you can have that system even automated with some AI agents today with agentic AI to get that personalization. So now in your CRM, not only are you just looking at, the names of these people that are on your list, but also, a click away from their Facebook profile or, what their interests, what their likes. And, that's really, really powerful. Now, that's like, where we are today. Now I want to go back to, many years ago, it seems now, it probably is. I'm sure you remember Joe Polish, Dean Jackson, the I Love Marketing podcast. And, any time like I want to make some more money, I'll do the 9-word email that, Dean Jackson is, he's famous for a lot of things, but it's very simple. Are you still interested in XYZ?
Yeah.
And I've shifted a lot of times from just doing an email to doing a text, and, having that conversation and, hey, let's get on the Zoom call and talk about it. And lo and behold, as you're talking, that problem exists. It may exist even more so than it did the first time around. But, that indifference piece, we want to get rid of that indifference piece and really have that potential client, that potential patient feel heard, and dig a little bit deeper to then basically, present the solution to the problem that you solve. And it all starts with conversation. So while all this AI is wonderful, the faster you can get a human in communication with somebody, I think it's great that we have, AI phone agents to help with speed to lead, but it doesn't replace that human connection and the ability to really build that trust and understand what it is that potential patient, potential client is looking for to help move them forward.
Yeah. We could do a whole episode just on lever one on database reactivation. In my world, to hammer home 2 points, Smile Direct Club, which went away and now is back under a different name, created a lot of controversy in my industry. I was probably a little lax on like, I don't think it's that bad of a deal. And a lot of clients and friends are like ready to string me up by my toenails. We learned a lot because they were publicly traded. So they were forced to file, SEC quarterly reports. And one of the things we learned was how long they followed up with, and we knew this because if you were smart and you were an orthodontist, I was like, go to one of their mobile booths when they show up with a bus and pay the $1,800 and get scanned and go buy it and learn how many times they email you and how many times they text message you and how they follow up. And I mean, see if it'll straighten that tooth that's chipped, whatever. We had some clients who did that. And what we learned is now in the SEC filings is that patients were reactivating 24 months out. So from the minute they raised their hand and said, I'm kind of interested in straightening my teeth, most orthodontists stop following up. I mean, some stop following up after the new patient exam. Others stop following up 30 days, 90 days, 180 days. I don't know a lot that are still emailing and texting 24 months out. But what we know on a company that did, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue, maybe over $1 billion. I think they were doing, at least when they ended, I think they were still doing I think just their cap finance arm of it, the financing arm of it was still like 40 million. So that would have been like 7-8%. So they're probably doing $400 million a year. They're doing a lot of revenue. This isn't a small test of what consumers are willing to buy and how long it takes them to buy. It's a really instructive point that the average local service provider thinks they came in, I gave them my best presentation, they didn't say yes, and so that's what the people in the car industry call there aren't any B-backs. They aren't going to come back if they didn't buy today. And what Smile Direct Club shows is that people were buying 24 months after they expressed initial interest. So Jimmy's right. You could send Dean Jackson's email. Are you still interested in a great new smile before your wedding? Are you still interested in a great new smile for your son or daughter before the busy summer season sets in? Whatever that is, those questions work. So number one is that how long that takes on database reactivation. Don't assume that just because they haven't followed up in 30 days that they're not going to reactivate. They will. And then to my point that people will buy things differently and reactivate a database. I'm sitting here drinking this is a Dram soda. I love, shout out to the folks at Dram. This is a small husband and wife team in Colorado. But almost all these companies, I always look, I'm curious who's canning, who's bottling, who's distributing. Well, interestingly, they are. So this is a functional beverage. There's 0 calories, and this is a mushroom functional beverages. We love functional beverages over at Flagstaff. So this is not one of our investments, but I love Dram. They do CBD sodas and seltzers, and it's all like plant-based. So there's like lemongrass, and this kind of tastes like Coke. It has that kind of cardamom peppery taste, but no calories. And I don't drink Coke. I'm not going to start drinking Coke. But this company knows, and interestingly, guess who distributes this for them? Coors. Coors distributing. So I don't drink alcohol, so I'm not buying Coors and I'm not buying Coke, but someone has said, boy, somewhere in our database, there's a guy that likes sparkly beverages and maybe he'll buy one of these. So I was sipping on this before we joined in the program. So I thought, well, I'll grab another example. This is Bloom. Bloom is a energy drink. And I thought, all right, well, this is the same thing, has like 10 calories, has like apple cider vinegar, it's supposed to be good for your gut. It does have caffeine in it. Guess who owns 30% of Bloom? I was thinking I thought it was going to be Coke. It's Keurig Dr. Pepper. Keurig Dr. Pepper has 30% equity in Bloom. I don't buy Keurig and I don't drink Dr. Pepper, but I do like an occasional caffeinated beverages. So I think the principle there is this. There are people sitting inside your database. I'm sure somewhere, if I'm an American and I have a credit card, that I am in every database in the world for he's bought dog stuff and sports stuff and sailing stuff and functional beverages and caffeine drinks and protein shakes. And what they didn't say is, boy, I bet he is buying his Keurig pod somewhere else. I bet he's buying, instead of Dr. Pepper, I bet he's buying Diet Coke. They didn't assume that I was dead to them. They said, could we offer something different that he's not currently getting from us? Could we sell it in a different way? So list reactivation might be, are you still interested in a great new smile before summer? And the patient goes, yeah, but I only want to do the top. Like, oh, they want to buy it differently. Or, yeah, I just want to straighten my lower front teeth. I don't care about my bite in the back. Or I really just want to fix this tooth over here. Instead of the full mouth that you recommended, they might want to buy it in a different way. They might just want whitening. So listen to what they're actually saying. And now we're going to go to lever 2 before we keep you the whole show.
One more.
Lever 1. It's a really, really important lever. Oh, we're going to keep piling in.
One more. The long-term nurture. You mentioned 24 months. And, I would say, obviously, go even beyond that, because, if you get them on a long-term nurture where you've got some digital that's not costing a lot of money economically, as well as I love newsletter marketing and being in front of your clients in a physical sense with things that you can mail. And a lot of times people will not pay attention until they want your product or service. So if they're not necessarily in the market for your product or service that you offer, they may tune you out, even though they're on your list. But then all of a sudden they click a link and they're, right back into the fold. And so that's where, having that long-term nurture tag in your CRM and having it be strategic with what you're sending over time is critical. So I know the next lever with, missed calls, this was years ago when we were listening to the calls, and the ones that we didn't get to listen to were more painful sometimes than the ones we didn't, because we saw in some instances as high as like 70% of calls being missed. And, a lot of times there, and obviously there's research and studies you can pull up on anything to, get data which way you want. But think of yourself, like, I find myself very rarely leaving a message. If they don't answer, I'm kind of like, well, I'm going to go to the next one. I need the solution now. And obviously, today there's the technologies where if you do miss the call, like a text back happens right away. And, having that on all the lines that are coming into your business and practice is so important to at least capture that. And then with AI, and I'll tell you, this is a lot more complex than what a lot of people lead on as it relates to building out these AI phone agents. There is very inexpensive ways to do it. And for some businesses, that's great. And it can work really, really well. Others where, some things are complex and you want to transfer the call, and if you don't answer to get transferred, the AI agent goes back. There's a lot that goes on from a programming standpoint to make that happen. Not to mention, you can have, so many different levels of voice if you want it to be more and more realistic. And a lot of these things, they go up at like a penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies. And all of a sudden, you got a lot of pennies, and you might be, where you're paying like $1.50 a minute, and you're saying to yourself, I don't pay somebody that answers the phone that kind of money. Why would I do that? Well, the beautiful thing about when you have it set up like that, and it really improves the experience, is you're only paying when those calls are coming in. And if you happen to get 10 of them at once, it can handle it. And it can handle it 24/7. It's a great backup too, to when the human does not answer the call. And, usually, gets, because of the knowledge that we can build it, gets it right, 99+% of the time. And if you want to run that new offer and you thought of it at lunch and you put it in there, immediately the agents know there's no need to, go and train, and it can happen, that instant. So, I know on missed calls, you've seen it too in the data on your side and working with, clients and different businesses. It is one of the easiest levers to pull, is to answer the phone.
Yeah, this is why I said we can almost promise like 40%, because that was about how many phone calls most of our clients were missing. So we would routinely, when Kennedy and I built Excellence in Orthodontics, he said, you've got to have this safety net underneath the treatment coordinator. You've got to have this safety net underneath the phones. And that's where we learned from you, like when to answer them. And back then we didn't have these tools. We were trying to figure out how to use call services and how to transcribe calls live using your AI at the time. And we just knew that if we were turning the phones off at 5 p.m. like most local service providers, we were handing revenue to the competitor down the street. And we're in a totally different world. So if you're listening to this and you're just answering your phones yourself, and your front desk is answering phones yourself, you're just playing wiffle ball, and everyone else who's using these tools is playing Major League Baseball. So there's a way to approach this. It has to be true to your core, who we are, what our values are, that we put others first, that we're going to crawl through glass for our customers. And suddenly now it's going to be really easy for AI to know the one office in town that's taking calls at 11 o'clock at night for the mom who's searching for a toothache in the aisle of oral gel and dental pain at Walmart, who's searching for kid toothache, emergency dentist. AI is going to know who to send that person to, because your office is going to be the one who takes that call, schedule that patient, and you're going to see him tomorrow morning. It's really, really powerful. So the data are overwhelming. I would love for you to share an example of the large group you help, because that's really, really powerful. But I could go in for hours on this. Let me just summarize. Your phones are critically important. Lever number 2 is you've got to reduce missed calls. You've got to increase your speed to lead. We've got overwhelming data on it. So I would love for you to share about the large group and what they saw with AI.
Well, a few things. Number one, less than 3% of voicemails pushed, callers calling in would actually leave a voicemail. So if they get the voicemail,
There's Gen Z's like, what are you, a psychopath? Why would you leave me a voicemail?
Yeah. And it's common where everyone's voicemail's full. Like,
kind of the same way now. I'm like, God, don't tell me this guy's going to leave me a voice. Just send me a text. Be a normal human.
And the other big one was over $100,000 a month in additional revenue when an AI receptionist is installed. And, we would see it years ago when we would bring this data to our clients, like, hey, you're missing calls. And, we didn't want to listen to the calls like for fun. We wanted to prove our value. And we listen to the calls. We're listening for leads. We're giving the names of the patients. We can cross-reference, see, where the ROI is. And when we don't get the opportunity, you as a business or practice, you're investing all this money just to be in business. And then if you're investing money in ads, in marketing, and you're not getting the at-bat because you're not answering the phone, you're just missing out on huge opportunity. And lo and behold, we started awarding clients when they would really work on their missed calls. And not only were they excited to get the recognition, but the following months, I mean, their profits went up because it was a simple task. And it's very easy to do today, in the sense of the solution is available. it can be complex depending on, how I would say real lifelike you want this to be. But um, with the right testing and the ability to transfer to a human and actually have that work, I think that's like one of the number one things I've been. I call it, I get stuck in AI jail when you call in and, the only thing you can hear is like, I can help you. I can help
No, you're
you.
not.
And you can't get to a human, and it just becomes extremely frustrating. So, oftentimes you get what you pay for. Just be wary on some of this that, if it sounds too good to be true, you might want to do some uncovering, do some testing, listen to yourself, and make sure you're answering the phones as much as possible with humans too.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the Seinfeld episode where he's at the rental car counter and he's like
Oh yeah.
trying to, anyone can take a reservation. It's holding the reservation. I would love to see Jerry Seinfeld's take. I'm sure he's doing it in his stand-up routine, but I'd love to see his take on all this AI stuff. Like the AI agent, like, oh, just like human, give me human, representative. Jimmy won't brag on himself, so I'm gonna brag for him. The example I was thinking of, one was an 8 location group practice. You reduced headcount at that phones department by 17%. They got a 24% bump in profit. These are the exact same patients, the exact same dentist. We didn't add a location. We just found more money inside the business. In other words, a large common client of ours, 26 location group, recovered over $47,000 in a single month from previously ignored missed calls. 144 appointments booked. Even if you've got a full phone center and you think you're covering everything, I promise you can't beat AI. If you have everyone calling at lunch and you've got even 10 receptionists taking those phone calls, AI will beat it. So lever number 2, please focus on missed calls, reducing those and increasing your speed to lead. Lever 3, you ready for lever 3? We're going to talk about no-shows. We're going to talk about schedule gaps. We talked about it in episode 65. You pay for patients whether they show up or not. A lot of digital ads lead in no-shows, and a lot of shows shouldn't be there. Right? So a patient shows up and they've got like 3 teeth with advanced bone loss, and they're like, I'm here for braces. And you're like, damn it, like, oh, we got the wrong lead. So we've got to figure out how to get patients to not only show up, which is a huge obstacle, but also to convert. I freely admit, years ago, we thought about this the wrong way. We had the same hours, same days, and we weren't working Fridays and Saturdays. Very quickly learned when I was at the Clef team, we hired our first associate very early in practice. Even though my friends were like, how can you afford an associate? We realized we couldn't afford not to have an associate because Fridays become our most popular day because we didn't have any competitors open on Fridays, and then Saturdays. And I was just scheduling different. So we did one of our records. I think we had 38 new patients. We did over $129,000 in a single Saturday, simply because we opened up the schedule and saw new patients in any column. We didn't have one new patient column. We had the same office, same operatories. We just opened it up and tried to make it a very light, kind of easygoing, like go grab a coffee. We'll take the extra, and mom would like go shopping, and one of our offices was in a retail center. Parents weren't in a rush to get back to work or school, so we had a lot of same-day starts on those Saturdays. The only thing that changed is when we were scheduling those patients. So you might think you have a lead problem. You might think you have a no-show problem. In reality, you have a marketing problem called you're trying to funnel everyone into an office that's open 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Thursday. I can tell you some of your patients want to come at 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night. You don't have to do that all the time. But if you want to grow, you might do it once a month. You might do it with an associate. You might figure out how to stagger your team so you can be open more often and serve the patient when they want to be served, if that's true to your core. That was true to us. It was about the patient. So I'd love for Jimmy to bring some more data, but scheduling gaps, no-shows, huge opportunity.
Let me give you some real life data. The scheduling gap that I experienced a couple weeks ago, I went to the pharmacy, and I'm not going to reveal the name, but it's a well-known pharmacy brand. And, I went like 1 o'clock or whatever, and I'm in line, waiting in line. Finally gets to my turn, and, I'm about to walk up, and this metal gate comes down, and I go, whoa, what's going on? Oh, we go to lunch now. Well, what do you mean you go to lunch? When do you come back? Oh, we come back in a half hour. As the
Wow.
thing is coming down, right? And I just have a question. Now, this is because their website wasn't working. I got into some sort of loop. I couldn't log into the thing. You couldn't call them because you couldn't get to a human, no matter any way you could try. Zero didn't work, get me to a human being. None of that worked. So I said, I'm going to drive down there. And even that didn't work. So I took it upon myself. There was a family owned pharmacy down the road, maybe 200 yards. And they got me all set up within that time. And I didn't have to go back. And they said, yeah, just call us when you need something. We prefer a phone call. And this way we can have your chart up and everything. We can give you, all the attention you need, and you can text us. But it was like completely different experience. So the scheduling gap is something to really consider as well. If you happen to be taking lunches, and I know when we're working with new clients and training some of their team members, we're very cognizant of allowing the team to be staggered. And instead of doing the training once and having everybody come in, we know the value of production, and taking that principle to your own business, your own practice, having that availability is so important. And it can be transferred over to, home services if you're doing like emergency work. And obviously, the more availability that you have, if you're the only one open, you got a pretty good shot. And if you answer the phone and then show up when you're supposed to, they think, wow, you got to be the best at what you do, because, here you are. And you can really shine very easily by, being there and accommodating people when they want to be accommodated.
Yeah. All this talk about AI and like the human touch, we got to maintain the human touch. Be careful. Sometimes the human touch results in your humans slamming down a metal grate at the pharmacy in front of your customers. I wonder if one day we'll long for the days of the human touch, and maybe Mark Cuban and his cost plus drugs, which is kicking every pharmacist in the rear end. The website will shut down for an hour and it'll be like, we're out to lunch. We can't serve you right now. All right. All kidding aside, lever number 3, no shows, schedule gaps. Let's talk about lever number 4, pricing and case acceptance. You should be thinking, which one of these levers do I want to pull this week? Could I send out an email that asks customers, are you still interested in? Can I figure out how to absolutely focus on missed calls and reducing those, increasing speed to lead? Could we reduce no-shows? And now lever number 4 is pricing and case acceptance. So, there's a saying in business, you live by price and you die by price. I think if you only compete based on price, that's a very fragile ecosystem in which to live. Kmart was displaced by Walmart, which is displaced by Amazon, although Walmart Plus is making a comeback. But I never thought we'd have a day that we didn't have Sears, right? And Sears is gone. And, Bezos is wise. He said one day Amazon will be gone. So it's the only thing binding you to your customers is that you're the lowest price. You've got a fragility problem. You've got a sustainability problem. That's not a competitive moat that I would want to swim long term in. I'd want to have something a little bit stronger. So, we saw this by adding things that competitors weren't. So we tried to compete in a category of one. So we had family plans and we had membership plans. I think a lot of dentists have latched onto this, that they should have some sort of a dental savings plan or some sort of an option for people that don't have insurance. We let the data indicate where we should be headed. So if it works and you test it 90 days, 180 days, and you've got the chance to stretch your price a little bit by offering tiers, a good, better, best. I think that's a good model. You should test it. And it's in everything from buying a car to buying an airline ticket. You can fly coach, you can fly Coach Plus, you can fly first class, you can fly private, you can buy your own plane. There's many ways to fly. You can buy a car with upholstered seats, with leather seats. You can buy the new Cadillac with hand stitched seats and the 680 horsepower, whatever. Like, you can go all out. You can get a Rolls Royce that's literally built by hand. There's good, better, best, and it's in everything. And HVAC companies, their service plans are good, better, best. I saw Home Depot and Lowe's are now offering a $99 annual maintenance program where they'll come to your house and change your air filter and change your light bulbs. I'm like, oh, is this built for Gen Z? They're like, how do I change a light bulb? I don't know. I gotta click and pay Home Depot. Send me the hate mail. Jimmy won't list the name of the pharmacy that gave him a crappy experience. I would have. I'll get the hate mail from Gen Z. I think the tiered of good, better, best is really, really smart. So the minute you click on it, it's like, oh, it's not just $99 a year. There's a $149 a year. And then if you upgrade to $249, you get 10% off your stuff at Lowe's and Home Depot. It's very, very smart. So, test your price, have tiers, good, better, best. Maybe the lowest tier in my world is just plain silver braces. The middle tier is clear braces or silver or Invisalign. The highest tier is we guarantee you'll never have to miss work or school. You're guaranteed first in line access to our evening and weekend appointments, has free whitening, has lifetime retainer assurance, whatever that looks like. Give patients options and you will see price elasticity. It's in everything, right? This is a quarter zip that I'm sure costs less than $100, but you can go to a custom tailor and buy a quarter zip that costs $800. There's tiers of everything in your life. So stop thinking that your customers only want to buy one price. The truth is that just isn't how it works. And Jimmy's got some really cool data on AI and how you can really pull the lever of pricing and case acceptance. So I'd love for him to cover that.
And as it relates to the data, when we look at insurance and the coding of things, we can obviously do audits very easily with AI today and uncover, potential coding opportunities to be, if we put this under this code, we're going to get actually, the dollars that we weren't going to get over here. And the data that we have is, and this was a larger group, there was an $840,000 a year gap that was fixed by just fixing some billing codes in terms of how it was being billed to the insurance. And I'm going to relate that also to home services. Say you're in like the disaster restoration world, the ability to go to the insurance company on behalf of the client and explain why extra money is needed perhaps to do a restoration. And is there areas that, buckets of other money that is not being utilized right now? So, sometimes the category can change and, you could put bushes under landscaping or, aesthetics, and the aesthetic bucket was full already, but landscaping, you could get another $2,000. And so it's important to understand these opportunities because the clients need to be led. And that's whether you're in insurance or not in insurance, patients and clients, need to be led. And when they are led and they are offered the good, better, and best, now you have an opportunity for a lot of them to take the best or take the better. And if you're not doing that, then obviously you're going to just have that one category. And to be able to test, the different price points and asking for feedback, I mean, that's just one of the easiest ways to, do some split testing and figure out which pricing, should we land on for right now. And it's not like it's ever done. I mean, everything is constantly changing and needs to be looked at on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, 100%. All right, lever 5 is referral systems. Some guy wrote a book about dental referrals. I think I love to get the royalty updates from Amazon. I'm like, that book still sells really well. It's like, I think it's almost 10 years old. But it's probably our best written book. No offense to the other books, but The Truth About Referrals is a deep dive into referrals. So if your patients aren't referring, you're probably doing good enough service, but people don't go home and go, oh my God, honey, you got to come see what the dentist is doing, right? Like no one's that excited to talk about their dentist. So you got to give them a reason to talk about you. And I gave this example. It's in the book. We talk about it on stage. We dared greatly. I mean, like you're going to get hate mail when you do stuff like this. You know, how dare you? And it's like, yeah, we did dare. So we noticed back then at the time, there was a Harley Davidson assembly line in Kansas City. They made one of the hogs. They made them here in Kansas City. They've moved all that, I think, either out of the country or definitely not here anymore. But these employees had great insurance. They were a lot of fun. They referred a lot of their friends and family because we were open late. And a lot of these guys that worked on the assembly line, if you miss more than a few hours, you're docked. So we treated a lot of Ford assembly line workers. General Motors has one over in Fairfax, but Harley was close to us. And so we rented out an entire movie theater. We had, it was like the premiere of some, whatever was the popular movie that weekend. This was for moms and dads. This wasn't a bring the kids along. We had talent agency chicks and biker gear. We had concert tickets we were giving away. We were giving away a trip to Branson. We had free beer and Jack Daniels. I mean, is this how most doctors promote their practice? No, but they loved it. It was all about them and they were loyal to us. And part of my core values is that we relentlessly pursue results. We don't half put our toe in the water. We go, if we think this might work and might be exciting, we go all in. So we knew a lot about our customers. We knew that this would be something they would talk about. No one's going to talk about, oh, you know, if I refer you, my dentist gives me a $25 gift certificate to use at his dental office, right? Like, it's like, hey, I'd have to, whatever. It wasn't like Titanic. It was after that. But if it was like one of the Avengers movies, or imagine right now, it would be this group would have been all over Maverick, right? So we got Tom Cruise and he's doing the latest movie and we've rented out the entire IMAX and we're going to fill it with Harley Davidson employees and there's going to be a ruckus party, right? That's what we were doing. And they loved it. But it's because we knew who our referral source was. So if you know who they are, where they live, where they work, learn everything you can learn about them, referrals will come in big waves because they feel appreciated. They feel like you get them and it's an experience they want to share with friends and family. So I know referrals, for me, I love referrals. I love to turn every customer into another customer, right? Turn one into two was something we talked about a lot in our businesses. So it cuts your acquisition costs in half, which is fantastic. So we love referrals. Love referrals.
And one family to another family, even better. You get the whole family.
Right.
Data-wise on this one, this was a composite case study I was reading about, and general dentists refer over $6 billion in revenue to specialists annually. And when you mention like knowing who the referrals are, 66% of actual referrals were going completely untracked before having that systemic tracking of, you know, who are these referrals? And after getting that tracking, 126,000 in newly attributed annual revenue and 35% referral growth in 4 months. That was the average of just, you know, finding out. And I think I love how you did. I actually learned this from you. Like, who should we be thanking for you coming to the practice or coming to the business and, you know, getting that name is very, very important to lead to more, you know, referrals. And so we've got 5 levers that we covered tonight. And I want to invite people to Dustin, if they want to be an insider, we created a portal where, as you know, we went really deep on lever number one, and we could have gone deep on all of them. And we want to have additional resources. We have available a 5-word text template, as well as a hidden profit finder worksheet that you can download. And we built out momentuminsiders.com. So you can just head over to momentuminsiders.com. This is all complimentary. These are the tools that, I use, Dustin uses, our clients use, and we know we want to hear your success too as you use these tools and resources. And we can go in greater detail, because we'd love to talk about this, all day, and find that hidden money, because it's right there. It's the opportunity is right in front of you. And I just think of, the impact that you can have by going and helping more people and making it easy for them to do business with you is one of the biggest principles that can go in any industry.
Yeah, I just want to personally say thank you to Jimmy and attest that the minute he built the intelligence machine, I said, okay, what can I play around with? And so we, for some groups I'm helping with, came up with a referral strategy playbook. And I've never seen anything like it. I mean, like, before, like, oh, let's see, like, which 10 dentists do we think might refer to our orthodontic practices? This was like 120 pages of what we would have spent probably 6 months and $100,000 paying a marketing firm years ago to do for us. Long time ago, like Valmont Research. I don't think they're around anymore, but would do like really deep demographic analysis. Like, here's your potential referral partners, and here's, how often you should reach out to them. Like, it is insane how in-depth this is. So I just want to thank you again, Jimmy, and tell everyone that you need to pick one of these levers. Just pick one. I know reactivation is really fast. You could do that very quickly with the template Jimmy's going to send you. You can request. Missed calls is pretty cheap to fix. AI can do a lot of that. Pricing is pretty uncomfortable. Most of you aren't going to want to do that. Referrals take some time. Scheduling and getting your kind of schedule worked out and optimized is probably the most systematic. So pick one. Whichever one makes you lose a little bit of sleep is probably the one you should be working on, maybe I say. But your next dollar, this is the principle. Please write it down, post it somewhere. The next time you want to just spend more on advertising, your next dollar is not hiding in a new ad campaign. It's hiding inside the business you already built. It's like the people at Bloom. It's not another new customer. It's a smarter question they asked. They didn't say, how can we go get Dustin to be a customer? They said, he's already on our list. How can we sell him something different that he might buy? They asked a better question. They didn't focus on just finding the next new customer. So if you're not subscribed yet, go get subscribed to the podcast. Go to momentuminsiders.com so that you don't miss what's coming next month. Every first Friday, Jimmy and I will go deep on a single topic like we did here for you. Subscribe wherever you listen, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Clarity creates alignment. Alignment builds momentum. Momentum produces wealth. Get additional resources, scorecards, and frameworks at momentuminsiders.com. New episodes the first Friday of every month.